of a line segment is the exact middle spot between two endpoints. So if I have a line segment here, I want to find the exact middle here. That would be my midpoint. So does anybody think they know how I would figure that out? Yeah, like, so for instance, if this is horizontal, I would be just looking at the x points and do what to them? Divide by 2, like, yeah, you find the difference because that tells you the distance, and then divide by 2, right? Okay, so to find the midpoint between 2 points, it's basically add the 2 up and divide by 2. You said the difference, hey? So why are we adding them up and dividing by 2? Instead of subtracting them and dividing by 2. What am I doing when I'm subtracting them? If, say, this is 3 and this is 5, it's pretty obvious the midpoint is 4. If I subtracted, what would I get? I get 2. And if I divided that by 2, I'd get 1. So what in my fact did when I found the difference? I was finding the length to go up by it, but not the actual middle point, okay? So what we're doing here is we're finding essentially the average between the 2 points. So you look at them very individually, the 2 x points, add them up, divide by 2. If you want to find the average between 2 tests, add them up, divide by 2, right? That's essentially what you're doing. Okay, so the midpoint is simply the average of the coordinates of the 2 points. Okay, so midpoint is going to be, add them up, divide by 2. What's negative 3 and 6? Is 3. Divide by 2 is 3 over 2, 1.5. What's the average of 7 and 7? 7. Add them up, divide by 2. 7 and 7 is 14, divide by 2 is 7. So think about that for a second. This is pretty obvious why the answer is. But if I had, and again, I'll just look at this holistically. If I have, this is negative 3 and this is 6, right? What's this distance here? 9. So halfway would be going up by 4.5. Yes? So do you see why it is 3 over 2 or 1.5? Well, if you go up from negative 3, 1.5, or sorry, 4.5, what would you be at? You'd be at 1.5, right? I did. 7 plus 7 is 14. Divide by 2 is 7 still, right? Okay. Watch. Negative 3, 7. There's A. Watching? 6, 7. There's B. Look at this holistically, the distance. Do you understand the distance is 9? So the halfway point, just by common sense, would be where? At 4.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5, right there. There's my midpoint. Well, isn't that what I got? 3 over 2? What's 3 over 2? 1.5. What's the coordinate right here? 1.5, comma 7. Yes? Okay. Find the midpoint between 7, negative 4, and 7, 6. Well, the x is pretty easy. If they don't change, the average is itself, right? What is it going to be? 7. Okay, now let's find the midpoint between negative 4 and 6. Yep, it's 1. Okay, let's graph this then. 7, negative 4. There's my C. and 7, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is D. So this is a vertical line. What's the distance between C and D? What's the distance between C and D? 10. It's vertically. I can just count, right? So the halfway point would be 5 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my midpoint. What did I get? 7, comma 1, right? That's exactly what I got algebraically. The average between -4 and 6. Add them up, divide by 2. Okay, next one. 0, 3, and 4, -5. So this is not actually going to be a horizontal or vertical line anymore. So I'll use a different color. A little bit harder then. 0, 3 would be right here. There's my E. And 4, -5 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my F. So if I take a ruler, which I didn't do, but if I take a ruler, you could probably see visually what it's going to be, but let's figure it out algebraically. Midpoint, add them up, divide by 2. So what's the x coordinate? 2. How did I get 2? 0 and 4 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. So 2, somewhere on the 2 thing, looks like it's going to be right there, right? What's 3 and -5 divided by 2? 3 and -5 adds up to be -2, and then -2 divided by 2 is -1. Does that not look like 2 -1? Yes? Okay, let's try the next one. I'll use a different color here. Black, I guess. G is -8, 2. -8, 2. So 1, 2, there's my G. And H is -3, -6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. You could probably tell the midpoint by just looking, but let's do this algebraically again. Add them up, divide by 2. What's my x? -5.5. What about my y? What's my y? -2. So let's see. -5.5, -2, right there. Yes? Okay, we need to find the coordinates of C and D. Am I missing something here? Oh, something's wrong here. Hold on. I had some technical difficulty here, but that's okay. We're good to go now. It says here that the endpoints of PQ are 3, -4, and Q is 11C. I don't know what the Y is. However, the midpoint of PQ is M, which is D, comma 3. Can anybody tell me one of the letters at this point? You should be able to tell me what D is right now. It is 7. Does everybody know how we got D to be 7? The midpoint should be 11 and 3. Add them up, divide by 2, right? So we get D is 7. Okay, so now that we know that, we can actually plot. So let's plot -3, -4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my P. Yes? And I do know that M is 7, comma 3. So 1, 2, 3. There's my M. So from here to here is my M. Okay? So I got to keep going to figure out where my Something's wrong here, yeah. Oh my gosh. Totally, let's try that again. So 3, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Thank you. And my midpoint is 7, 3. There we go. Much better. Okay, so now I know it has to intersect somewhere at 11. Okay, so how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure out what C is? Extrapolate the line. Well, if you know the midpoint, can you not go backwards? For instance, if it halfway from -4 to 3 is a distance of what? It's a distance of 7, so then I need to go a distance of 7 the other way, right? So what would that be? 10. It should be 10. So 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's Q. I should use a ruler for it to be. There we go. No, it should be 11, 10, yeah. 11, 10. So this is 7, 3, and this is 3, -4. So let's just check it out. Add them up, divide by 2. So 3 and 11 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. -4 and 10 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. Can anybody come up with a different way that we could have got this? So by the way, I have to actually answer the question. C is 10. Anybody else come up with a different way? It's almost like you could do logic, but really, if my midpoint or my average is y2 plus y1 divided by 2 for my y, this is my midpoint for my y. Do you see if I cross multiply that over, if I double my midpoint of my y, I get a formula there, right? Yes? So look, if I double this, if I double my y, my 3, I get 6. And I have the -4 here. Do you see if I move it over to the other side, what would I get? I would get the 10. You could have done it that way as a formula. I think the logic is probably better. No? Definitely better? If you ever get stuck, you can always put it on a graph and logic it out too, right? Okay, the center has coordinates -1, -3. The endpoint of a diameter of the circle has the coordinates -3, 0. What are the coordinates of the other endpoint of the diameter? So if I can do a quick sketch here, do you see if I do a quick sketch, I have -1, -3. There is my center, which is -1, -3. Yes? And the endpoint is -3, 0. I'll call it A. Do you see I'm going to draw the circle around it? My diameter would be, I need to figure out what that is. I'm going to call it B. I'll give you a second to figure it out. I'm going to put kind of two methods. So I would say method 1, I'm going to say logic. You know what I mean? So kind of like what you're kind of saying, I think you're all saying kind of the same thing. So for your x value, you're going from -3 to -1, and that has to be the same distance essentially, right? So then it has to be by logic 1, yeah? And then say with the y, you're going from 0 to -3, so then that has to be -6, so then my point has to be 1, -6, right? Okay, here's another method. Again, if you didn't understand that, you can't logic it out. I would say I would call it algebraic. Okay, Algebraic is you add up the two x's, divide by 2 is the midpoint. So I'm going to pretend that this is just comma x comma y. Yeah? So does everybody see negative 3 plus some x point divided by 2 has to give me negative 1? And I think that's what somebody said. They doubled the midpoint, right? So then if you double it, you get negative 3 plus what gives me negative 2. So then it has to be, x has to be 1, right? And same with the y point. Add them up, divide by 2. So 0 plus y divided by 2 has to give me negative 3. So again, you cross multiply, you double it. 0 plus y equals negative 6. So then your y has to be negative 6. Either way, you're going to get the same answer, right?